Welcome to the Boneyard Podcast. Billy Embody. We got him on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Billy's the publisher of ontheponyexpress.com, has covered SMU for over a decade or for a decade. And now with the last two seasons, he's been with On3, with the On3 network. Billy, welcome to the Boneyard Podcast. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well, guys. Ready to get to Greenville. I've never experienced game day there, but I've always heard great things.
You're in for a treat. Thursday night, we were just joking about getting what is the marketing thing that they're doing, Josh? It's like blackout in the boneyard or
Night of the Boneyard.
Night of the Boneyard. But all the students are going to be blacked out in the boneyard. So, once again, drink responsibly. Do what you need to do. But Billy, first things first. This SMU team they're good. What makes this team so good just right off the hop?
Well, it's really weird. It's weird times at SMU right now. They're going to the ACC, which is wild, but maybe even more weird. This is a defensive football team right now. It really is. That is something that I didn't think we'd be saying this year in a way. I felt like this is a team that was going to be offensively able to do whatever they wanted to, but they haven't necessarily been able to do that so far this season. And so for SMU, their defense is what has been most improved this year. They've been able to add a bunch of transfers and really bring in some guys that can make plays, can control the line of scrimmage. In particular, the defensive line. They return Elijah Chapman, who I know Mike Houston said this week it feels like he's been there for 5 years. Same. But they also have Devere Levelston, who's back. But they went out and added 2 Miami transfers in Jordan Miller and Elijah Roberts, who's really been a massive difference maker, especially Elijah Roberts. He's a big defensive end at about probably 6'4", 275, and he moves like a pass rusher. And so that defensive line for SMU has really keyed this defensive improvement. I believe last I looked, they're top 30 in total defense right now. I know they're one of the best in the AAC when just you stack up all the teams. And they've done it really without forcing any turnovers. Last week against Charlotte, 2 weeks ago now, against Charlotte was the first time they've gotten a takeaway in a minute. And, that's something they're hoping to build on because they've done a good job forcing teams to go the length of the field to score on them if that's been what has happened. But they've also done a really nice job just limiting what these teams that they've faced, the Oklahomas, the TCUs, they for the most part have done a really nice job limiting those teams. And in particular, when they get down in the red zone, they've been able to hold and force field goals and do those things. So it's been kind of weird covering a team that's as defensively focused and productive as SMU this year, considering all these years, it's been the Cortland Sutton show. It's been the Rashee Rice show. It's Danny Gray, Reggie Robertson, James Prochet. They've had playmakers all over the place. They've got some tools offensively. It just hasn't clicked fully like we thought it would going into this season.
For sure. And that's not something ECU fans are going to be happy to hear, though. ECU has had its struggles on offense all season, especially in the red zone. We saw it against Rice a couple weeks ago, where you get in the red zone, I believe, 5 times, and you got 1 touchdown out of that. Billy, talk to me about this offense. Like I was mentioning earlier, you lose Tanner Mordecai. Now you've got Preston Stone. What's that transition been like?
Yeah, Preston is very different than Tanner Mordecai in the sense that you look at what SMU has this year, and maybe Tanner Mordecai is able to manufacture enough points in one of those 2 power conference games that they played against OU or TCU. But at the same time, Tanner was really susceptible to game-changing turnovers, unfortunately for him, and for a multitude of reasons, whether it was a fumble against Maryland that his knee was clearly down, shout out Big Ten officiating, or whether it was an interception backed up in his own side of the field against TCU. There's just been moments throughout his career where those things happened. With Preston Stone, he, for the most part, while he's thrown some interceptions this year, they aren't of the back-breaking kind. And for Preston, one thing that I think hasn't come together is this receiver group that we thought going into the year when we were, as the media, kind of watching this team come together, we thought, oh, Jordan Curley's got the speed. He's going to be your deep ball guy. Jake Bailey is that really productive slot guy. Can they get something out of Jordan Hudson, who's got a ton of talent? But then they have Moochie Dixon, Romello Brinson, Keyshawn Smith. They've got all these guys that have talent, but they've been rotating receivers a lot. They haven't maybe gotten the continuity and the chemistry in the passing game that they really wanted to. And so that's probably hindered Preston's overall production. This is a team that you look back at the second half of last year, they ran the ball really well. Then they went out and added 2 Power 5 transfers at running back. And this offensive line, for the most part, came back intact. And they've been able to run the ball really well. And so they've kind of leaned on that. There's been some moments here and there where maybe they should have run the ball and it was kind of clear if you're watching the game from above, and other moments where, wow, it's dictating that, you need to take a shot here. There's 8 in the box. So there's been a little bit of it just hasn't clicked fully offensively for SMU. They've had the Prairie View A&M game. That's a mismatch. They came out red hot against Louisiana Tech. They were able to control Charlotte very, very well. They were pretty efficient from a drives perspective in that game. But again, it's just so different. We're not seeing the deep shots. Teams are really honing in on stopping those from SMU. And so Preston Stone has really had to take what the defense has given him. And there's been moments where there's been drops or there's been passes that are just a tad late. And so, again, I hate to be a broken record here, but it just hasn't clicked fully in the passing game. But that running attack has really come alive the last couple of weeks against TCU, against Charlotte. TCU, they really could have run the ball a lot more. They obviously got down and they had to pass a little bit more, but they could run the ball on TCU pretty much whenever they wanted. So this is a team that I think as they get into conference play deeper into it, especially against, even though East Carolina, I think their defense is playing pretty well. You guys would know a little bit more on that, but I think they've got to really continue to run the football. They just haven't been able to do it in the passing game. So you need to lean on what's been productive. It's been that run game.
Josh, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that you say that because I feel like ECU's offense is so bad that SMU's offensive numbers look just amazing. But it's I mean, what has been that difference with SMU compared to the Oklahoma and the TCU? I mean, those losses look like they were reasonable losses against those teams, but I feel like SMU kind of has a little bit more to them.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's where it's frustrating for a lot of SMU fans and even just kind of watching this team come together this year. I thought going into the year, they'd be able to steal 1 of 2. And for whatever reason, they haven't obviously done that. But you look at the Oklahoma game, and that's one they've got to be. I mean, hopefully they're not looking in the past if you're on that team, but that is one that really got away from them. They were able to move the ball pretty much at will. They had a block punt on their opening drive that allowed OU to score. And 2 plays before that, they missed a wide open, what would have been 70-plus yard touchdown pass. Roger Daniels had a couple steps, and it just was a little bit too far for him. And the game changes like that. Jalen Knighton, they're running the ball. He's got it deep inside OU territory. I think it's either tied or maybe SMU's down 3. Boom, fumble. And that just takes away your momentum that you're moving the ball down the field. So that one got away from him. That was a game where I realized that this team, when it's playing well, can play and beat anyone on their schedule. And TCU, SMU just didn't bring their best game. And they didn't capitalize on a couple red zone opportunities in that one. They came away with a field goal on one, which we talked about kind of they should have handed the ball off against a good look versus, pulling it or doing something different. And then kind of the same thing on the other side. They go for it on 4th down and they, run into a loaded box. So they come away with 3 points on 2 critical drives where they move the ball pretty much at will. And again, against TCU, they didn't bring their best stuff. And that one probably hurts a little bit more too, because it's a rivalry game. You see what TCU truly is. And I said it going into that one. I said, this TCU team is not as good as last year's team. Obviously, they're They've got a bunch of holes. You talk to TCU people going into that one, and they're like, well, there's no defensive line depth. Secondary's got question marks. No receivers have stepped up. It's kind of like all they had was Amani Bailey and Jared Wiley, their tight end. And SMU just got beat in some critical situations. And maybe it's a growing process with a new quarterback. They're trying to find their rhythm offensively, but those are two that they didn't look out of place. And even the TCU score, they got a touchdown late when SMU was kind of selling out to stop it on fourth down. I think the score was, I guess, 27-17 at that point. So you're thinking they're going to run it. They've been able to run it on them in the second half, and they pop one over the top to the tight end to make it 34-17. So it's those are two games where they looked like they belonged. They just didn't make the plays when they were in front of them. And as you look ahead to this conference schedule, that's probably one of the most concerning things when you look at this team is, okay, they have all this talent. They have all these pieces. Will they execute like they need to week in, week out to now go on what would be a 7-game run to potentially play for an AAC championship? That's why it's so important they go to East Carolina and get a win. It's a tough place to play. ECU's been able to play some teams tough. There's a lot of respect from SMU when it comes to ECU. I remember the 2019 game, or no, 2021. You guys were talking about it when SMU just got whipped in that one, or maybe that was 2020. But whatever one that was on the road at East Carolina, SMU just completely fell apart. And there are guys on that team that remember that game. And then you look back last year, UCF got beat in the same atmosphere. So there's a lot of respect from SMU when it comes to East Carolina, despite a 1-4 record, and rightfully so. So they've got to come out. They've got to finish drives. They got to try to take the crowd out of the game.
For sure. And Rhett Lashley, I mean, he's in his third season this year.
Second.
Is it second?
Yeah, he was offense coordinator. He
was hired in 2021. That I was thinking he was hired earlier that season before the season started, but hired in 2021. Talk to us a little bit about him, his coaching style, his philosophy. Talk to us a little bit about him.
Yeah, I think he's continuing to grow as a head coach, and there are many ways that we can kind of look at this. Is one, they came in, Sonny Dykes left. They had to basically keep the whole roster. They couldn't spend a lot of time going out and getting maybe the guys that they needed to really turn the roster at different positions to maybe go from what was, I think they finished 7-6 in year one, to being a team that could have been a 10-win type of team. And they had one of the toughest schedules in the AAC. They played Cincinnati, they played UCF, they played Houston, and went 2-1 in those games against the preseason top 3 of the league. And then, of course, they end up playing Tulane as well. So they had a tough schedule. They finished really well last year, and I think they made some changes throughout the year that give a lot of people that kind of confidence that, all right, they'll recognize what's going on and they'll make some changes and tweaks to probably fix those things. I think Rhett's done a really nice job, especially from a recruiting perspective. He is a recruiter kind of at heart. I know he gets a ton of buzz around, his offenses throughout his career, and they've always been good. He's always been able to generate turnarounds. Even went to UConn and drastically improved them in his one season there before he got to SMU. And he's been able to go out with his staff and get a ton of transfers that, yes, on the offensive skill side with the wide receivers, probably haven't been as good as they thought, but at running back, they've been successful at hitting on those guys. Offensive line, they've added some key guys. You look at the defensive side, that's littered with transfers that are making differences for that unit. So he's addressed the roster really well. I think he's growing into being a head coach even more. There are some certain situations that I think he probably wants back throughout this season, notably against Oklahoma and TCU, but they've kind of cut out, as of late, some of their window dressing, jet sweeps, reverses. They ran a flea flicker against Oklahoma. This team is too talented to try those things against defenses that are good at staying home, that are good at disrupting those type of plays, because then it just sets your offense back. I mean, this is a team that I've kind of said throughout the year, they just need to keep it simple, and not because it's too much for them, just because keeping it simple has worked for them when they've been able to go with tempo. They've been able to run the football. They've found some intermediate routes that work for them in the passing game, and they have all these weapons. So I think he's continuing to develop as a head coach. And this year, it hasn't hit like people have wanted it to. Dropping both games to Oklahoma and TCU. But that's where the expectations went going into this year. This is a team that had added so much talent, a top 10 transfer class, I think top 5 even by some spots. But they brought in all this talent, and there was kind of a little bit of an expectation for SMU to make a statement when it came to that OU or TCU game. And I think they did against OU despite coming out, on the losing side. But I think he's continuing to grow. I think this team plays really hard for this entire staff, which is noticeable, and mainly because of last year's finish. Granted, they played some really good teams early in the season. They were able to get a little bit of a lighter load in the second half, but this is an SMU team that hadn't finished above 500 in November. I think Chad Morris days. So it's been a minute, and they were able to generate that strong finish to the regular season. And those are things that haven't happened. So he's kind of been checking some things off the box. They went last year and beat Tulsa at Tulsa, and they hadn't won there in well over a decade. They sent Houston on their way to the Big 12 with a loss. They've done certain things where, okay, those are big games, big moments. They also have to play really well as a team to accomplish their goals. Like they have the pieces, but they aren't a good enough top to bottom team right now to just kind of throw the jersey out there and be able to be successful. Things have to, be executed. And I know that's a lot of teams, but it's the reality with this one, especially kind of with where the offense is at, just not necessarily clicking at full tilt.
For sure. Josh, any other questions from you?
Yeah, I just got one because I thought about asking, thought maybe no, but I think this is probably a perfect question for you because you got 2 jerseys right there behind you. Who has the best and worst outfit combinations and colors? But here's the thing, because this probably gonna be the last time we get to talk to you with SMU leaving, I want ACC and AAC. I want both of them.
The best and the worst.
The best and the worst.
The AAC, I would say the current group of schools. I would say you look at I feel like Charlotte's not that great. That's just very bland. And then the best, honestly, I think when SMU shows up with the Dallas uniforms, it's pretty strong. It's a pretty strong look. I'm glad that SMU doesn't really do the black jerseys too much. There's been some historically bad performances when they've done those. One being my jersey there on my right or left in the Armed Forces Bowl about a decade ago. But and then the ACC. I grew up in Florida. I like the really classic Florida State uniforms. I'm kind of partial to those. Those are pretty good. And then the worst, I would probably say like Syracuse, just kind of bland, just kind of average.
I would say them or somebody like I think Boston College or a UVA.
Yeah. UVA doesn't do it for me either. Boston College, all I think of is Flutie. Maybe that was their last good moment outside of Matt Ryan.
We have had a ton of beef with Boston College on this podcast, so got to throw some shade there. But
there you go.
Josh, you asked the question. Now you got to give your answer.
Yeah, that's unfair.
So in the American Conference, for me personally, I love a good purple helmet, purple jersey, gold pants, because that gold face mask that they do with the gold pants, I'm telling you, it's the cleanest look on the sideline. It's the cleanest. That's the one helmet that I always want to take an extra picture of, just to have it on file.
Well, an SMU podcast and reporter can't give purple any love. The TCU fans will come out of the woodwork saying I'm a homer for them. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I've always wanted us to do the West Virginia's done it, and I believe Arizona State, kind of like that all gold.
Oh yeah,
I would love for us to rock an all gold, and there's rumors about a gold helmet this year. I would love to see it, but I don't think it's going to be in the cards for the
SMU's
Pirates.
tweaked some of their helmets this year a little bit. They've done some different things with face masks. I think Rhett Lashley is kind of Sonny Dykes was very like classic SMU outside of the Dallas jerseys. Even the Dallas jerseys kind of look like SMU. Rhett Lashley is from that kind of, even though Gus is, was at Auburn for a while, they didn't mess too much with their stuff, but just kind of that, it wouldn't shock me if SMU brings out the black jerseys at some point. I just got to see them do something in them to believe that they can do it. The last time I can recall SMU doing something well in the black jerseys was actually when they did, it's called the anthracite look, when they beat Houston back when Chad Morris was the head coach. I think they had a purple or a pink Mustang. I think it was an October game, and so it was for breast cancer awareness too. So it was quite the look.
For sure, yeah. And not every team needs to do a black. There's some teams out there like, why are you doing black? Black's not at all in your normal color scheme. Like, SMU, it's red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
Classic. Stick with it.
Yep.
Alabama,
LSU. Plenty of schools that shouldn't be doing. Oklahoma, they shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, it's cool every once in a while, but like ECU, it's become okay. Let's do it once a year, right? Like we'll do it.
I love it. Pirates like that just makes a ton of sense to me.
I can't wait till they blow everybody's minds and come out with a no quarter uniform one year with all red. Now you want to talk about pissing a bunch of Pirates off? Come out in a red uniform one day.
Yeah.
But Billy, real quick before we let you go, we've talked about the Pirates' offensive woes, and it sounds like you feel like SMU is going through something similar, but ECU is on a whole nother level when it comes to how bad this offense is. You talk about keeping it simple. Well, at ECU, it seems like simple is just running it on up the middle every play. And if you're not doing that, we're gonna throw a screen pass or throw like on 3rd and 8, we're gonna throw it 5 yards and get hit right in the middle. Like, what is it gonna take for ECU to pull? ECU's a 12-point dog. What's it gonna take for ECU to really kind of come out and make it a game?
I think being able to play good red zone defense. I do. I think SMU has shown all year that they can move the ball. Rhett Lashley, I think, even called them a team between the 25s or something like that recently. Familiar. And so if ECU can force some field goals, and SMU's field goal kicking hasn't been perfect either, they can force some field goals early. They can maybe pop a big play. I covered Marlon Gunn down in Louisiana, so know the type of wheels he's got. I know he's just coming back, but the run game, at least from ECU, seems to be where if that can get going, that would probably be where they could, control the clock. Charlotte basically turned the game into, like, it was kind of a weird score. It was 34-16 was the final, but SMU was in complete control. Wasn't ever in doubt. It was 27-3 at one point, but Charlotte ended up just basically playing ball control. They were snapping it with under 10 seconds left. I think SMU had eight or nine possessions total that were real possessions with time, and not like an end of the game when they kneeled it out and all those things. That game was just so weird. Just overall, 95-yard touchdown run, 15-yard scoring drive for SMU is just weird. But if East Carolina can hold in the red zone and kind of keep it relatively, close for the first half, then you can kind of throw it out in the second half and just see what happens. That would be the path to probably knocking SMU off. And SMU's also gotten 2 punts blocked this year, partially blocked. So special teams will probably play a little bit of a role too.
Yeah, that sounds great and all, but ECU sucks in the second half. So that's
SMU hasn't been great either.
This might be a sickos committee night. It seems like it in Dowdy if it's not a blowout.
Well, and now the line went from 9.5, I think, to 12.5, and been doing this a minute with SMU. And anytime you see like, all right, Thursday night game, blackout jerseys, line jumps by 3 or something crazy like that, it's probably not done moving up. It's like, okay, is this actually going to be that kind of a game? We'll see. We'll see. They've got to break through and win a road game. They haven't yet this year. They haven't had any, AAC opportunities or even, one against a group of 5 or what have you to make it happen. But it could get weird. It also could be one of those games that SMU explodes and they kind of look like what a lot of people thought in the preseason they should. But I had over the summer this game and Memphis as the 2 conference games that I was circling as tough tasks for SMU, which maybe is a little bit about the conference too. But going to East Carolina, especially in this environment, is no joke.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, even when we're down, we're still going to have a bunch of people there.
Yeah.
But
looking forward to it.
Billy, check out Sup Dogs. Go get you a hot dog or a hamburger before the game. Let us know if you're there. Maybe we'll stop by on our way in. But yeah, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your content.
Yeah, you can follow us at ontheponyexpress.com, and we'll be there, boots on the ground in Greenville. Excited to check it out, and we'll see what type of team, which SMU team, I guess, shows up against East Carolina. I think we're in for a fun one. Maybe a weird one, but a fun one.
Hey, that's all we can ask for, some fun. Now, I just thought of it before I let you go. I know you're a Florida guy. I saw you got the Tampa Bay Lightning shirt on. What are your thoughts? I mean, you had the run. Last year was kind of a rough playoff season for y'all. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's not going to be easy. No Andre Vasilevsky for the first 2 months of the season. Best goalie in the world, had back surgery. They played a good game tonight. Just finished up watching them beat Nashville, who could kind of be not a playoff team, but kind of a thorn in people's sides this year. But they've got some growing to do. A lot of new faces on the 3rd and 4th lines, but the Stars looked like the Stars tonight, and that's important for the Lightning if they're going to weather this storm, so to speak, without Andre Vasilevsky. Goaltending, I mean, they do not have guys that have really played much at the NHL level back there stopping the puck. So I'm intrigued to see how it goes and if they have to make a move at some point to bring in somebody that can, weather another month of this or what have you. But the run was awesome. The COVID bubble was fun. I watched it from the same bar every game and all of that. That was a lot of fun. And then when they went and won the cup in Tampa, I was there. So I grew up a Lightning fan. I was born the year they started, and that's my team. That's my team.
Yeah, I even here in North Carolina, I grew up a Canes fan. They came to North Carolina when I was 2. Grew up playing hockey. So yeah, love it, Billy.
Same here. Got a game tomorrow night. Got a beer league game tomorrow night. So ready.
Fun. What position?
Center.
Okay, everybody wants to play center.
Yeah.
I was more of a stay-at-home D man. So
yeah. I tried that. It didn't go my way. Wanted to jump up too much.
I feel it. But Billy, I'll see you Thursday night. Sound good?
Yep. See you guys then. It'll be fun.
Thanks, Billy.
All right. See you Thursday.